Hey guys, this is week 27 Project Life, and today I'm going to use the new Shenanigans stamp set from Kellie Stamps. So I dug into my stash and I pulled out one of my Citrus Twist Mega Kits. This kit is just kind of the conglomeration of a whole bunch. I think it's probably more than 6 months worth of Project Life bits and pieces that were left over from kits. I went through them, I pulled out anything that I didn't think I was going to use, and then put everything else into 2 different kits, only because I couldn't fit it all in one. To be perfectly honest, that's the only reason there's 2. Just kind of split them up randomly, so it's all a little bit sort of random supplies. As you can see here, I've just gone through some of the papers and some of the cards and pulled out any that might kind of work with both the stamp set and the photos that I've got this week. So I've got a few kind of for journaling, and my photos are all a little bit kind of there's some black and white. I mean, it's winter here, so there's not a whole lot of color going on. So as far as my spreads go, I'm relying heavily on the papers and cards that I'm using to inject a little bit of fun and color into these spreads. So that's what I'm going to do today. I really loved 2 of these papers. They're both almost the exact same pattern. They've got little crosses on them. One is this kind of royally blue and one is yellow. I love the yellow, as you can see, coordinating with my outfit of the day. And I'm just deciding how I'm gonna use the yellow. I don't want to use too much of it. It's not an actual 4x6 piece. It's just a scrap, so it's had a little bit cut off it, and I'm thinking I'll cut it down even further than that. So I'm gonna do some repeat stamping instead. I'm using the lovely Lounge Like You Mean It stamps, and I'm gonna stamp it out in yellow. I didn't clean my stamp from last time, obviously, so there's a few kind of grey smudges on there. And I get this far into repeat stamping and I actually don't like the way it's sort of stacked up in columns like that. So I flip the card over. This is just some white card from my stash, and I'm going to alternate the stampings instead. And I just kind of feel like it gives a little bit more balance, especially if you don't get your stamping particularly straight like me. That's really obvious when it's in columns. It's a little bit less obvious when it's like this. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to leave a gap. I've just kind of estimated it because I'm going to stamp this stamp again in black, and so I didn't want to do that in the middle of my yellow stamping, so I've just kind of guesstimated the hole that I need to leave, and then I'm going to stamp it one more time in black, which wasn't perfect. I was a little bit bummed about that, but it is what it is. And I have not stamped all the way to the top of this 4x6 card either. Like I said, I'm going to trim off a little bit of this pattern paper and add that to the top. I love the kind of difference in texture that it gives me, and just breaks up that stamped pattern a little bit. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of adhesive to the top, and then I'm going to stitch that with my sewing machine to, again, add a little bit more texture and kind of combine those 2 things to make it one sort of cohesive card. So I just like the way that that joins those 2 pieces together. Now I've got my photo to add on top, and that's that card all done. Super easy. I do love a bit of repeat stamping, and it does feel like I haven't done it in a while, so I feel like I'm a bit rusty at it, but I do like how that turned out. I'm gonna dig through this kit here and see what sort of embellishments I've got. I've got a lot of chipboard, I've got a lot of kind of tiny word phrase stickers. There's some alphas in there which aren't generally that helpful because I've just about always used up all the E's, but I do actually have some E's for this week, side note. But I did have this sheet of puffy heart stickers, one of my favorite things. I love when you get these in the Citrus Twist kit. So I just popped a couple of those on top of my stamped sentiment, just to add a little bit of color in there and to kind of break up the yellow. I was like really feeling the yellow for this week, but I also did not want to have this like fully yellow page, so I am gonna try and add in a few other colors as well. Now this card was super simple. I had kind of a chevron pattern on the top half of it. I've just popped my photo on there and stamped Guilty Pleasure underneath. That was just a photo of my my stack of unprotected Project Life spreads. Basically, when I finish filming here for you guys, I hate putting these layouts into the pockets, so I generally just stack them up and pop them on the shelf to do another day. And this, I think there was 18 odd weeks in there, and I very, very nearly tipped them all onto the floor. So that was my sign that it was time to do something about it. Now you can see me up here auditioning different patterns, different papers, different cards, different colors for this title card. Again, so that I don't use so much yellow. You can see I've still put the yellow there. I'm determined to use it. And I don't end up using it at all. You won't see that because my camera actually cuts out. So you don't see me creating most of my title card. Now this photo here I stamped straight onto the photo. I print it home on Canon Photo Glossy 2 paper. It's designed to absorb ink, so it stamps beautifully. However, the sentiment is not correct. It says crazy for this. This was like our 9th day of rain, and I was not crazy for it. So I'm literally just changing the sentiment by adding a word with some of these little alphas. Luckily, don't need the E for that one. And again, I chose a color that was a little bit different. So trying to get a few different colors into there. Sort of a tealy blue, so different from the royal blue that I will end up using. Just to give me a little bit more variance. And I love those little pops of color, so I'm gonna do the same thing here. I've got 2 3x4 photos, and they were perfect for the 2 kind of blocky stamps that are on this set. Do you know what I mean? They're solid stamps, and they both had sentiments that are going to work really nicely for these photos. So I'm going to do the same treatment on both of them, and I'm going to do it at the same time. I have grabbed some Catherine Pooler ink, I think it's called Party Dress, and I am stamping both of these stamps just onto some scrap cardboard. And I'm stamping them a few times because I haven't actually used these stamps yet, so sometimes it takes a few stampings to get a totally solid sort of impression of that. You can use a sand eraser. I can't find mine at the moment. I know it's in here somewhere, I just don't know where. So I just stamped it a few times so I could pick out the best one, and then I'm trimming those out. So I'm kind of making my own embellishments with those stamps. Like I said, I can stamp directly onto the photos, but when you've got a pretty color like this, it's going to sort of bleed through. So I wanted that really solid pink, so it's easier just to stamp it onto some scrap paper and then stick that onto the photo. And I'm going to layer it up with some of these tiny word stickers, tiny phrase stickers. I've got them in here and I want to use some of them, so it also gives me another chance to add an extra color into here. I find some of these tiny phrase stickers from Citrus just a little bit difficult to get off the sheet, so I did go and rummage through my drawer and find my tweezers there so I can add them in. I'm just sticking the sticker underneath and then my little stamped embellishment on top. So it's just a matter of finding a phrase that kind of combines with the stamped one to make a little bit of sense, or at least add to the photo. I like these kind of pink on pink, and they do stand out, especially off this black and white photo here. I love adding that wee pop of colour. So that's pretty much my whole spread done. I've got one photo left, and I knew I had the perfect stamp on here to do it. It says Double Trouble. Took Lil out for a walk, and we met a little friend who had the exact same outfit on. It was so cute. They had a wee play, and so I'm going to stamp Double Trouble as kind of a border on the bottom of here. And again, I'm going to stamp directly onto my photos. This time I'm using the Brilliance Moonlight White ink. This is my favorite white ink for stamping onto my photos. It's really opaque, and it also has this really subtle kind of metallic shine to it, which I really love. So I stamped one, and then I'm going to stamp a second row above that with the stamp that says Shenanigans, and this is where my camera is going to cut out. So I decided rather than stamping in black, I would try this chalk ink and see how that turned out. It did not turn out well, spoiler alert, and so I just stamped over the top of it in black. So I did end up with black and white. And then I went back to my title card and I literally just picked out this kind of very, very pale blue notebook looking paper, and I did the same treatment that I did to the bottom card. So I trimmed down a piece of pattern paper. This time I used a kind of reddy corally pink, stitched it onto the card and used that as a shelf for my alphas. Like I said, I did have that alpha set left that had the E's in it, so I used that. It gives me that kind of royally blue that I was after, which ties in really nicely with the 2 heart stickers down the bottom there. And then I used that same teal coloured mini alpha to add in the numbers for the week. That larger alpha set didn't include numbers, so I was going to have to use numbers anyway, and that ties those alphas in together. So I am going to add a little bit of yellow in here, and so I grabbed a yellow label and I stamped my dates on there. I'm just going to tuck that under the shelf too, so it is kind of hanging off the edge of the page. I just needed to get that straight and then trim off the edge. And I'm going to add another little heart in here, another couple of hearts, just again to tie the other things that I've used on the page, tie it all together a little bit. So this week ended up being kind of random, tied together by stamps, and just all the colours, which is kind of my motto at the moment. Now you'll notice I have missed out my journaling, didn't do my journaling, realised that after I turned the camera off, so I did go and fill that in, and this is the spread all finished. Don't forget to grab the Kellie Stamps discount code down below in the description box as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.